Hi everyone, today is Wednesday, April 8th, and we are going over ceremonial speaking and what your ceremonial speeches will be like in our class. Congratulations! This is the last speech of the semester and is, in my opinion, the easiest and most fun, so let's get started. Ceremonial speaking. So, ceremony is often considered the glue that holds our society together. The rituals in which we engage, whether they are as simple as eating at the same time every day or as elaborate as a wedding, give us structure to adhere to and connect us as humans through the similarity of experience. Often, particularly at the more elaborate ceremonies, there is a stimulation and desire for something to be said, a presentation to be made, a speech to be given. People feel a need to acknowledge publicly the importance of the event that is occurring, and it is often public speaking that is used to do so. Ceremonial speeches take the forms of graduation speeches, wedding toasts, roasts, eulogies at funerals, dedications of memorials, and many other speeches that celebrate achievements and or help us move through transitional moments. On special occasions, such as weddings or funerals, you may be called on to say a few words. When and if these occasions occur, your audience will have distinct expectations for what they will hear. The occasion strongly affects how you should shape the type of ceremonial speech you are giving. A key characteristic of most ceremonial speeches is brevity. They are generally, although not always, fewer than 5 minutes long. Therefore, the ceremonial speech you will give for this class will be anywhere from 2 to 4 minutes long, so pretty brief. And due to the transition to online learning, I'm going to have you choose from one of 3 ceremonial speaking formats to pursue in this speech. So the first being a speech of self-recognition, the second being a toast, and the third being a eulogy. So now we're going to talk about what each of those types of ceremonial speeches look like and include, what they include, and then based on what we talk about in this lecture, you will decide which one of those 3 formats you will pursue for this speech. So we'll first start with the speech of self-recognition. So if you choose to pursue this speech, I want you to reflect on your experiences from this past semester or the year more generally. Think about your triumphs and heartbreaks and how you navigated those situations. Then you will choose 2 characteristics or traits that you would like to recognize yourself for. So, for example, maybe you want to recognize yourself for your resilience and your positivity, or for your strength and determination. You will then provide examples from your life that manifest or illustrate those characteristics, and then warrants that explain how those examples demonstrate that trait. So I really want you to take some time to, reflect and think about what's happened in your life so far, and especially maybe even with the transition to online. It hasn't been easy, right? And we know that. So maybe this would be a good time, if you'd like to pursue this speech, to recognize some of the ways that you've really overcome obstacles during this time. That would be completely fine. But keep in mind that if you pursue this speech, you should refrain from overpraising yourself. But definitely, think about your life and your growth as a person or as a student, as a brother, a sister, an advocate, whatever it may be, and use this speech as a way to recognize how far you've come and how strong you are or can be. Now let's talk about speeches of tribute. And toasts and eulogies fall within this broader category of speeches of tribute. So speeches of tribute occur at birthdays, weddings, anniversaries, oaths of office, retirements, or funerals. The goal of speeches of tribute is to invite listeners to truly appreciate the person, group, or event by arousing specific sentiments. So generating fond, emotional memories, feelings, and attitudes that characterize the person, group, or event in a good, loving-natured way. So that's the goal of speeches of tribute. So this is done by focusing on the most notable characteristics or achievements of the person, group, or event with vivid stories, examples, and language. So within a toast, it's a ceremonial speech offered at the start of a reception or meal that pays tribute to the occasion or to a person. If you choose to pursue this speech format, it will be structured similarly to the speech of self-recognition, except you will be honoring someone else rather than yourself, or an occasion of some sort. So, for example, students I've had in past semesters have toasted the class for completing the course and getting through public speaking, which we all know isn't easy, right? Others have toasted a family member or a friend for their support or accomplishments, and even one student last semester gave a toast to Baby Yoda. So you can have some fun with this speech and how you go about toasting a person or an event or an occasion, whatever it may be. So just like the speech of self-recognition, you will choose two of the person's characteristics or traits that you would like to toast. You will then provide examples or stories that manifest or illustrate those characteristics, and then warrants that explain how those examples demonstrate that trait. So you may use humor in this speech, but not in a way that embarrasses or seeks to degrade the person or people being toasted. It should be sincere and express a sentiment that's shared by those in attendance. So any humor jokes that you use should be good-natured and shouldn't seek to hurt anyone in any way. Okay, so that's the toast. Now let's talk about a eulogy. So a eulogy is a ceremonial speech of tribute during a funeral or memorial service that praises someone's life and accomplishments. Your goal is to comfort the mourners by focusing on positive memories of the deceased person. For a eulogy, you'd select two positive personal characteristics of the person and then use stories you've collected about the person to provide support. Incidents that reveal how a personal characteristic helped the person overcome adversity will be especially powerful. So, especially with the eulogy, but with any ceremonial speech, it's all about pathos and getting your audience to feel something about someone that you're toasting or eulogizing, or even your speech of self-acceptance. So keep that in mind. That's very important for this speech. So within the eulogy, after you provide those stories that kind of illustrate those traits that you've mentioned, you will then provide, like your other speeches, the warrants that explain how those stories demonstrate the positive personal characteristics of that person. So those are the three types of speeches you have to choose from. So based on those descriptions, figure out what you'd like to pursue and think about that. And if you have any questions about the type of speech, either the speech of self-recognition, the toast, or the eulogy, if you have any questions about those, let me know. And maybe I can help you make a more informed choice about which one you would like to pursue for this particular speech. So in this next slide, these are just some quick examples that I would encourage you to click on and kind of use as a guide. I would definitely encourage you to watch because although the structure of these ceremonial speeches listed here is different from how you will structure your ceremonial speech for this class, they do a very nice job of illustrating how different ceremonial speeches should be delivered. Like I kind of mentioned before, delivery is super important in ceremonial speaking, and it's one of the primary goals for this speech. It's all about getting your audience to feel something, and that's not only through the content we present, but how we present it. So keep that in mind. Delivery is super important. So now that I've mentioned, we've kind of gone over the speeches and I've given you some examples, I will briefly go over the ceremonial speech materials that you should most definitely use to your advantage while constructing your ceremonial script or outline and preparing to give your speech. Okay, so we talked about what ceremony is, and we know the types of speech that you have to choose from for this speech. But something that I really want to emphasize, and I want you all to focus on for this speech, is that you should really think about the ways in which you can be animated and enthusiastic in your delivery style. So you really want to focus on your delivery and what that looks like and making your audience feel something. So a lot of the ways how you can do this, right, is to practice. So you have, in giving you that extra workshop day, I want you to think about and take a little bit more time to construct and maybe plan how you're going to deliver this speech. And I want you to have a little bit of fun with it. Think about it. You really want to generate some pathos and get me as your primary audience member to feel something. Right? So if it's a eulogy, maybe, you want to have moments and touches of positivity and light in that speech, but there's also a somber tone that comes with delivering a eulogy. And maybe in a toast, it is more playful and is more fun. So, you want to think about the ways in which you do that, whether it be through humor or silly stories or specific language choices. And then also in your speech of self-recognition, think about how do you want me to feel when you're talking about, the traits that you're trying to accentuate in yourself and recognizing yourself. So delivery is super important. And the use of creative language and vivid descriptions are super important for this speech. Another key thing that you should keep in mind is that you are not required to use sources in your speech. So when you're giving examples or stories to illustrate the traits that you're accentuating in yourself or about another person or a group of people on an occasion, these are things that you can come up with and make up, right? And think about and reference. So you don't need to come up with an outside source to support your claims in this speech. However, if you choose to do so, then you need to cite those sources within your speech and within your script and in your bibliography. So keep that in mind. Okay, so now let's talk about the ceremonial speech outline template. So the main thing you need to know is that it's really essentially the same as all the other scripts and outlines that we've had this past semester, except for a few minor differences, and it's really simple and direct as to what you need to do for this speech. But there are two elements that I want to direct your attention towards, and the first is the link here, so right where I'm highlighting. So the link connects your attention-getting device to your thesis statement by introducing the person, people, thing that you are honoring in your speech. So it's really simple, and it's really like a one-sentence thing that just connects, introduces who you're honoring. And when I briefly take you to the ceremonial speech guide, you'll see exactly how you'll go about structuring that sentence. So that's what the link is. Next, I want to direct your attention to the evidence or the example, which is in the body of your speech. And keep in mind, something to keep in mind is that you don't have 3 main points in the speech. There are only 2. Only 2 main points. So it's really a simple and direct speech, keeping things, shorter, because that's what ceremonial speeches are about. They're short, sweet, to the point, but really seek to make a big impact on your audience's minds through the use of pathos and vivid language. But anyway, I wanted to direct your attention to the evidence section, the examples. A lot of the times in the past, students have struggled with this section because they don't give enough vivid description or use language, sensory language, to create a picture within your audience's mind. So these, when you're creating your examples, they should be stories or personal references or instances that you can use to create an image in my mind that really demonstrates the trait and characteristics that you are using in your speech. So make sure that the example is substantial. These stories, the evidence you use is substantial through the use of vivid language and description and sensory language. And it should be, that doesn't mean that these stories need to be super extensive or long. They can be succinct, but it should just evoke an image in my mind and to really fully illustrate the trait that you were using. So just keep that in mind. And stories, like we've talked about in the past, and the use of description are great ways to achieve that goal. Okay, so here what I'm showing you is the ceremonial speech guide, and it basically tells you what needs to go in each section of your ceremonial speech and how you should go about structuring your speech script/outline. So this is very important. Like I said before, the ceremonial speeches are about delivery, and that's why you'll see in this guide that I have already provided you with prompts and like little sentences and scripts about how you will go about writing this specific sentence and what you will say. And I've done that because your ceremonial speech is about delivery. So that's where I want a lot of your focus to be. But I highly, highly, highly recommend that you use this guide in conjunction with the template to help you construct your speech, because it gives you the prompts you need to be successful. So please use this. And as you see the link up here, like for example, what I'm highlighting, the link is, this is what you would say. This brings me to talk about, and then you state the person or thing that you're discussing. Right? So please use this guide to help you construct your speech and your outline. That's the second page of the guide. And then last but not least, you have the grading rubric here. So like always, you'll be graded on all of the required elements that are needed in your speech. That's nothing new. And then you have in the back half here also that what else you'll be graded on. But I wanted to direct your attention here to delivery, because delivery is worth 35 points in this speech. So it's important. I know I've repeated myself and I sound like a broken record, but I really want to emphasize that the importance of your delivery in the speech. So I want you to have fun with it. I really want you to tap into how you can go about creating that pathos for your audience, for me, while I'm watching your speech. So keep that in mind and really focus on the element of delivery. Other than that, that's our lecture for today. If you have absolutely any questions or concerns at all about this speech, let me know. Other than that, wonderful job, and I'll talk to you all later.